This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, Real Talkers, you know that thousands of elected officials from across the country are gathered in Alberta's capital city as we speak. It's the annual FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We're talking about civic leaders, municipal leaders, really from communities of every single size. You're talking about like councillors and reeves in these summer villages and small towns all the way up to the big urban centers. We've talked about it briefly a couple of episodes ago. You may remember Tanine Rudick was in from the beautiful town of Vegreville, just east of us, right here in Edmonton. Edmonton City Councillor Aaron Paquette was raising some eyebrows, including among Real Talkers, and triggering separatists across the province with his thoughts around municipalities separating from Alberta. Can't wait to get to that with our feature guest this morning. And of course, Dr. Dwayne Bratt was doing his best to keep it all on the rails. What's actually possible? Well, follow up today as Calgary's mayor, Jeromy Farkas, a great friend of this show, is in the Metro Edmonton region for this FCM annual event. And so we've got him right here in our historic Mercer Warehouse studio in downtown Edmonton. We're also going to be talking about our home city, in particular social services, an institution you've probably seen if you've been in Edmonton, that big orange ambulance. But how much do you actually know about what Hope Mission does, about what Hope Mission's been doing since the Great Depression, when it was founded out of necessity? This organization has evolved in major ways. It serves a shocking population, which I suppose is a relief and also a bit of a punch in the gut when you consider the need and the driving forces behind it. We're proud to be partnering with Hope Mission today for a feature Real Talk Roundtable. That'll be on the back nine of this episode, and Real Talkers have a lot to say in this week's edition of the Flamethrower. That's presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Tyler W., we told you a few episodes ago that your submission was in the running to headline the Flamethrower, and I have to say it has proven to be among the hottest takes that we've received this week, and that's saying something. So Tyler will lead us off before we wrap today's episode. Before we get started with Mayor Farkas, I want to let you know that this episode happens because of the team at RapidX Financial. You'll find them online at rapidxfinancial.com. If you know crypto, in particular Bitcoin, you know that it can change fast. Boy, is it ever moving fast right now. The cynics will say, ha, 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 and the evangelists will say, now is the best time to buy. I say, don't ever listen to me when you're making financial decisions, but if you are looking to buy or sell Bitcoin, you're going to want to go to rapidxfinancial.com for a few reasons. Number one, they're a made-in-Alberta solution. They're the same experts that have had those rapid cash ATMs for like 25 years across the country. They're secure. They're FinTrack registered. This is the platform I use. And critically, they're non-custodial, meaning you always control your keys. Plus, we want to keep a bit of money in your pocket, Real Talkers. If you're using rapidxfinancial.com, make sure you use the promo code Ryan50. That's all one word, Ryan50, to knock 50% off fees on all of your online Interac e-transfer trades. It's real talk. It's real Bitcoin. It's Ryan50, the promo code at rapidxfinancial.com. As we welcome, this always feels a little strange to say, in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. If you're looking for a Mercedes-Benz in Calgary, make the trip up to Edmonton West and tell them Real Talk sent you. What a pleasure to welcome His Worship, the Mayor of Calgary, Jeromy Farkas. It's good to have you in studio.
And I have to say, right off the top, I get a peek at this Flamethrower from Tyler, and man, all the all caps on there. I am stoked. I am stoked.
Yeah, it's longer than your average Flamethrower, but like it was the all caps that got my attention, and this is definitely an Earmuffs Kids edition of it. Like he's not censored any of it, which is kind of the point with the Flamethrower. So I hope Tyler feels a little bit better when I read it in my rock and roll voice.
It could shake up some of our municipal meetings because we're here for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and it's an exciting time to be here in Edmonton. In Alberta, it's a bit of a happy accident that we have mayors from coast to coast to coast talking about similar problems: public safety, social disorder, infrastructure, revitalizing downtown. So it's interesting for me as a rookie mayor, getting the chance for that mentorship at the Big City Mayors Caucus table. There's no such thing as new questions, just new mayors, is what I was told.
Yeah, I mean, a rookie mayor, but an experienced counselor, like an experienced politician, and obviously I would imagine that you've had some pretty interesting conversations, like, you know, on the record. There's panels and forums and all that kind of, you know, all the kind of stuff that a lot of people go, ugh, and other people really love. But then there's the private conversations, the sort of like dark corner, back room, kind of what the hell is going on.
I showed up and I think they were trying to suss out how redneck I am, which was kind of funny.
Are you passing the test?
I don't know. It depends on.
You're wearing jeans today, but not cowboy boots. I did notice.
Yeah. I got our Nighthawks, North Trail High School.
I want to ask you about that. I mean, you know, I'm a proud Henry Wisewood alum.
Yep.
Calgary born and raised at North Trail High School. I'm not familiar. New high school?
Yeah, they're one of the newer ones, and I had a chance to get hosted by some of the kids there for a big student carnival that they put on. And
cool.
That's one of the best parts of being the mayor is, you know, you could be chatting with, you know, the deputy mayor of Toronto one moment, then you could be pulled into a meeting about permitting for like a local business patio, and then it's festivals, then it's existential questions like the future of our country, like are we in or are we out, right? So it's a really momentous time, and you know, I may have had some experience at the council table, but it feels like here in Alberta, it's the map is definitely in like here be dragons territory.
Yeah. What are mayors? I mean, can spill the tea here. People want to hear it. Like, what are mayors and elected representatives from other jurisdictions asking about Alberta right now? Obviously, there's a lot of questions.
Well, I'll put my cards on the table, right? I think we're so much stronger together, and you can make the case for economic development, for public safety reasons. But us as a country, we're under siege by forces outside of us. And like, just an example, I put up a clip from yours actually about being very pro-Canada. It was Mayor Knack and I talking about just there's no business case for separation. And it drove great engagement on my Facebook, but it's something like a third, maybe a little bit more from Estonia, from Facebook, or from like Russia, all these other external jurisdictions. So when it comes to actually everyday people, they are wanting us to focus on affordability, on housing, on public safety. They actually want us to get to brass tacks on the issues that matter, and this is just a huge unfortunate distraction, but I think it goes to show like we're so much stronger as a country, and having these municipal leaders from elsewhere in the country, from coast to coast to coast, here in Edmonton, here in Alberta, solving these tough problems. I think it's a great sight to see Canada actually working together as a confederation.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying there. You're getting these messages from like Estonia and all these.
Yeah, so anytime I post about how separation's bullshit, how we got to focus on stability, certainty for jobs, it's the AI chatbots. It's like the same prompt. It's like, stay in your lane, fill the potholes.
So how do you know this? Is this your speculation? Or
no, on Facebook you can actually see like the different countries that engage with the content, and it's just brigading of. It makes it looks like there's some like false equivalency when just everyday people I talk to certainly are not in favor of this, and I think that's vindicated as well by some of the recent polling that would just put out. At least I think it's 75% of Calgarians plus are not on board with separation, or at least moving to the question that the premier is asking.
Interesting. I guess I may have known a little bit what I was doing yesterday on X, on Twitter. Woo! When I retweeted Bruce Arthur out of Toronto, but Bruce is citing some interesting data that shows, referencing a National Newswatch story, 39% of Albertans say that they would stay. This is interesting polling. In an independent Alberta, 38%. So the other, I mean, it's like equal numbers, say they would leave and live elsewhere in Canada. I mean, like, who knows? But wow, numbers are equal. 19% aren't sure. 2% say they'd leave Canada altogether. So then I post, and good luck selling your house for anything close to what you think it's worth amid a mass exodus. The whole thing is lunacy, plain and simple. Well, then, Jeffrey Rath jumps in, which then, of course, opens the floodgates for comments. And he says, do you actually believe that people are going to flee Alberta for higher taxes and more regulation in communist China? How many booster shots have you had? He asks.
Well, look at what the vision that these leaders are proposing, right? It's
vaccines,
mandatory military service. It's basically Gilead from Handmaid's Tale.
Girls got to have more babies.
And literally, like, people say that you're exaggerating, but that's the literal quote from
Mitch Sylvester, the organizer of the petition. That's literally what he said. He also said that the only people that would be receiving Alberta citizenship would be people born in Alberta, yet they're also expecting a mass influx of people to Alberta, I guess, so that they can be shit all over and not given citizenship. which I'm not really sure how this all works. But the point is, it wouldn't work. And the point is, it's not thought out. ROA says, I'm fear-mongering and nobody's leaving. Others are saying, Aaron says, great if people leave. Thank goodness housing costs would go down. There's a silver lining if I've ever tried to find one.
I want to talk about two pieces for Calgary's case. So about a third of Calgary or more was not born in Canada or North America. So 1/3 of Canada, one third of Calgarians not born in Canada. Point one.
It's pretty wild, by the way, if you think about it.
But point two is we lead the nation in terms of educated workforce, small business job creation, and so on. So for these two facts to be true, it means that the world's best people are coming to Calgary, to Canada, to be able to solve the world's toughest problems. And statistically, it's more likely that the person coming to Calgary is more likely to come here to make you a job than they are to steal your job. They're more likely to come here with the scarce skilled trades to build you a house than they are to steal your opportunities for housing. So let's push back against the bullshit. And I think that the biggest problem with this is it's such a huge distraction from the issues that matter. Like shortly, you're going to hear from Hope Mission, some incredible folks who do amazing work in the nonprofit and preventative space, social disorder, addictions, recovery, treatment, housing, mental health. These are the challenges of the province at the moment. And the fact that we have the next 5 months really starved of oxygen on how we're actually going to build and catch up on the infrastructure that we're no short in here in Alberta for municipalities, housing. That's the real, almost borderline criminal part of this, is that it's a huge distraction from actually making our province and our country better at this moment in time.
Working class scum, that's the handle they've given themselves on social, not me. Says, genuinely in Satan, take Jesperson. Some progressives might run for the hills. Good. But aside from that, we'll be fighting like bandits to keep people out. Obviously.
Well, we can't let this be a progressive versus conservative thing, right?
No, it's not.
And I usually am more restrained, but I had to clap back at Rick Bell the other day when he's trying to make it as like, okay, if you're for jobs, if you're for the economy, for stability, you must be some woke dipper. No, that's absolute bullshit, right? So let's make the case for stability. And nobody is making the case right now for just the status quo within the country. The Premier, to her credit, she's been able to extract some concessions. We had a really good meeting with the big city mayors with Minister Robertson, who's really engaged as a former mayor himself from Vancouver on what it's going to take to be able to allow us as municipalities to catch up on those infrastructure and housing challenges. So let's make this work. Let's reform the Confederation. But most of all, I'm not going to let anybody kick me out of my own country.
80s Fanify says it's also worth mentioning Mitch Sylvester, the petition organizer, also believes that King Charles is trying to kill him. That from 80s Fanify. It's important to get that on the record. That's a comment, by the way, in our live chat, powered by Park Power. Calgary's Mayor Jeromy Farkas joining us. If you're just joining our live stream presented by California Closets, you can book a free consultation anytime, by the way, at californiaclosets.ca. If you're just joining the live stream, Mayor Farkas in the capital city as part of the FCM. What do they call it? The annual convention? Is that what they call it?
Yes, the annual convention and trade show.
Yeah.
You probably got 5,000 municipal leaders,
it's wild,
mayors,
hey?
councillors from across the country. And,
did the idea around municipalities separating from the province raising the eyebrows?
I had the chance to actually tease a few Edmonton city councillors, and I think it's going to get a bit of a mixed reaction at Edmonton Council.
So you were in our live chat the morning that Councillor Paquette was on, so you may have already heard him, but he has a question for you. He looks right into the camera and he wants to talk to you.
Okay,
so here it is. So here's Councillor Paquette. He wants you to join the fight on municipalities looking into, as a last resort, in case of separating from Alberta. Here he is.
Don't be careful. This is not a time for everyone to be cautious. This is a time to be bold. This is a time to stand up for what you believe in, full-throated, chest out, and say, no, the line is drawn. This is it. It's time for change. It's time for solidarity. It's time to get rid of this nonsense of separation, because it's damaging our economies. The Calgary Chamber of Commerce said so, calling on Mayor Farkas, I'm talking to you right now, and every other mayor and councillor in this province to stand up, and we'll stand together.
Councillor Aaron Paquette there on June the 3rd. Thoughts?
Well, I love the cojones. No, I fully agree. Right now is the time to stand up and be counted, and I know that you and a couple others have been, in the media especially, been criticized for quote unquote giving this oxygen.
Too much oxygen.
No, and I think that we haven't raised the alarm bells enough, right? That we are in the fight of our lives here in this country, and complacency is what led Brexit to the conclusion that it did. And the polling numbers at this point in time, before the Brexit vote, we're even less favorable for Brexit as it is for Alberta separatism right now. So we need to take this seriously. This is a threat to democracy, it's a threat to human rights, and it's an attack on treaty rights. It's an attack on jobs, employment, the quality of life, and the safety that we enjoy here as a community. So we need to push back hard, and now is the time to be counted, to make yourself be heard. And if I could make a pitch, if I could pass the hot potato, maybe from Aaron to me to somebody else, it would be to the business community. I think we need to hear from, especially the small business owners, especially those newcomer communities, talk about why it's important for us to remain in this country. But most importantly, it's not status quo. It's how we're going to fix this country rather than take our ball and try to go home.
Okay, I want to ask you actually about a conversation we had yesterday with YouTuber, I guess it's an action, YouTuber, JJ McCullough. The guy's built an enormous following.
Great.
I really enjoyed talking to him. After the fact, I was like, why haven't we had him on sooner? I don't know. We'll have him on more regularly. But anyway, he basically says that, well, he pins a lot of this on the media. I didn't mind his take. I'm not going to say I totally agree with it. But in case you missed it, Real Talkers, here's kind of a synopsis. Here's the short we put together. You can catch that on our YouTube channel, wherever you follow us on social media as well. JJ McCullough in our most recent episode.
I'm very, very, very skeptical of this idea that separatism in Alberta is this like big, factional, important, impressive sort of force, particularly in conservative politics. This is a pretty minority position. And it seems to me that if something was a powerful political faction, that we wouldn't just have to kind of like idly speculate on how many politicians might secretly support. You know, they should be out and proud and sort of saying like, this is something that I love and this is not a political liability for me to be out and proud about it. It comes off to me as this is a very like media constructed kind of thing because it's a good story. Media thrives on political division. Media thrives on political drama. Media thrives on political intrigue. And I think that it is much more interesting as a political story to report on and talk on and write columns about and so on and so forth if we perceive Premier Smith to be battling off this separatist faction within her own ranks, as opposed to what I think is probably closer to the more boring reality, which is to say that most people within the Alberta legislature, within the UCP, are basically on Premier Smith's side. You know, that they like the idea of a referendum in order to bring a sense of closure and maybe offer a bit of a sort of emotional release valve. But at the end of the day, they believe that separatism is a kind of dopey idea.
Kind of a dopey idea. What do you think his take on it?
It is a dopey idea, but not for the reasons that you may suggest. You know, I'm a big fan of JJ, and if you haven't, check out his YouTube clips he does a segment on sort of the political history of Pierre Poilievre as well as Mark Carney. Just really fascinating stuff. But, you know, we wouldn't be talking about this unless it was the official policy of the government, right? Like, we are going into a vote, and it's important for media to cover that. And I thought, Brian, you did a good job in terms of talking about, let's not both sides this thing, right? There's not a false equivalency here, and you're going to be featuring, I think you said prominent, but not necessarily credible voices. And I think it's part of your job is not just to show the game, but actually scrutinize, hold me to account. When I talk about, say, the investment that we'll lose, you could ask me, well, tell me, how do you know that, right? But same thing on the other side of the spectrum is that the media has a job to do right now that's more important than ever to hold these voices to account, to hold the politicians to account, but also to hold the premier to account. And it's very clear at this point that the UCP has become a separatist party, right? So when you look at this being the policy position, actually put the question on the table, that's not what a party that professes a undivided loyalty to the country would do. And when you look at the polling as well, as a majority or even a super majority of UCP voters today would support separation. So again, this is this is not the. I would not prefer us to be talking about this right now, but because we're going into a vote, we need to take this very seriously.
It's interesting for me. You're one of like many, but when you lost the mayoral race to Jyoti Gondek, you were kind of framed at that time. You were like the right wing candidate, right? You were. It was like the fiscal hawk, the right winger, the like UCP puppet. I guess not technically UCP at that time, but you know what I mean. You were. And then this past one where you won, it was a wild race. I mean, the Real Talk Calgary Moral debate had like 6 candidates that were all, none of them were a joke, put it that way. You weren't necessarily identified as like the UCP candidate there. I think that was probably like Sonia Sharp or others. And this is, again, just lazy characterizations. I'm saying like what people are saying on social. I'm not saying there were official affiliations and the like. But it's just interesting for me to hear you talk as an example of like several or many people that I talk to that now to hear you say like the UCP is a separatist party. It's different than if if Gil McGowan comes on and says it from Alberta Federation of Labor, or some sort of longtime lefty that we're buddies with that comes on the show from time to time. It's never lost on me. I don't know if do you consider yourself? It's not necessarily important, but do you consider yourself a small C conservative?
I know probably some in the UCP would like to revoke my conservative street cred, but what I'll say is my tax increase was 1.2%. Theirs was 25%. So let's let the numbers speak for themselves in terms of our approach to fiscal management. But, I would describe myself as old school PC, like socially live and let live, fiscally conservative. I have a deep understanding of, say, if we want to address, say, root causes of crime, that's the way that we actually solve these problems. It's investing in organizations like Hope Mission. It's getting ahead of the issue. Like if we want to deal with, say, housing or homelessness in crisis mode in terms of emergency room visits, policing costs, that's going to be way more fiscally expensive than just addressing it through Housing First, through addictions, recovery, treatment, mental health. So I don't necessarily say that I've left the conservative movement, but I think some of the conservative movement have definitely left me in terms of being way out there. Like, look, even at the moment we're in, right? Like, and rather than going to back to basics, focusing on the things within our control around housing, services, infrastructure, we're seeing a lot of conservatives at various level scapegoat immigration, go after trans kids, right? So like for me, I just want the garbage to get picked up. I want the potholes to get filled. I want the streets to be clean. I don't want to be a household name as the mayor. I just want people not to have to worry about City Hall. And I don't care about the bullshit of whether I'm left or right. And I think that was part of the appeal and the reason I pulled off not just defeating one incumbent, but two incumbents, was trying to leave the partisan bullshit at home and just say, what is it going to take to actually fix our city and build us up rather than trying to tear the country down.
Super Chat Ken has bought you a cold beer, which you can redeem on your way. Or if you want to get up and go grab one right now, that's totally cool too. Super Chat Ken says, it's so refreshing to see a politician that tells the truth and wants to serve for others. Keep doing what you're doing, Jeromy. Interesting from Les, who's bought you a cold one as well. I don't know if you're going to be able to stand up by the time you get over to the FCM. Les wonders, where will this crap stop? Or will the suburbs now want to separate from the city centers? Here's what I think, and I don't want to take anything away from anybody. In case this wasn't like so fucking obvious already, it's a big mind fuck. The whole thing is, isn't it? I mean, isn't like I quoted a text from my friend Tennille to Paquette, who her text just said publicity stunt. And I don't know if it's a publicity stunt. Paquette actually in earnest said, I don't do anything for those reasons. I believe in everything I'm doing. And I don't want to take anything away from him in those efforts if they are real. But to me, it seems like threatening to pull municipalities out of a sovereign province it invites the separatists to make a choice. And the choice has to be either they support that idea because it's being presented for the exact same reasons, fiscally unsustainable, they're being disrespected, or you have to say no and you contradict your own position, right?
I struggle a bit with Councillor Paquette because it just legitimizes the separation question, period, right? So Kit says, we're going to assume Alberta separates, so we're going to separate from Alberta, right? So it kind of just grants the premise of just a really bogus argument in the first place. And I do respect him a lot. I appreciate that he's trying to find some ways to throw a wrench into the works.
He really does care
to be able to slow things down. But again, I think that we need to come together, left versus and right, across broad cross section of Calgarians, Albertans, Edmontonians, everybody, to be able to talk about how we're going to fix this country and not make it into kind of an NDP versus conservative versus liberal thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on the nonpartisan nature of this, and that's what it has to be. It's common sense versus short-sightedness and lunacy, as far as I'm concerned, and that's how we'll frame it unapologetically, by the way. Calgary's Mayor Jeromy Farkas hanging out with us in our feasure interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. In a second, I got to ask you got to give us the goods, man. You have, come on.
About what?
Well, is Calgary getting a train to Banff? What's going on? The Premier's down there. Don't think we didn't know. She's got her leaders dinner in Calgary tonight. I'm going to be down there, by the way. And are you going to be at the Juno Beach Center Gala? The CN, what's this, CK
I might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, doing amazing work. Crystal Blaster and the team, the Geo.
Yeah, really impressive.
Calgary's it's amazing. Edmonton's kind of got all the action this week with all the elected officials, and then Calgary this weekend is hopping, man.
Yeah, we got Lilac Festival as well.
Yeah,
so
I know.
That's as big as the Calgary Stampede.
4th Street is like the best, right? Yes. Isn't it? And and by the way, in between it all, the Edmonton Tourism Awards, which is today, which I can't wait to host at the Edmonton Expo Center. Lots going on. More with Mayor Farkas in just a second. Before we get to the trains and the rail plan and all of that, and more of what you have to say in our live chat, Real Talkers, want to let you know that our friends at the Alberta Chambers of Commerce are putting out the call. They want to know your issues and priorities in the province right now. They're looking to hear from Alberta business owners and operators. Last year, you told them by way of their provincial priorities survey that it was interprovincial trade barriers and federal policy impacts that were top of mind. Has that changed? Their survey is open until June 12th, basically the end of next week. Takes, on average 8 minutes to complete. I did it in 6. So, whatever. If you know how you feel, 5 minutes of a commitment to get your perspective on the record. Here's the deal. Your input helps reflect the realities facing your business, your priorities for the province, and it helps Alberta Chambers of Commerce best advocate on the issues that matter most to Alberta's businesses. You can help them build Alberta's future together. Check out, if you're watching us live, in the chat, the link to the 2026 Provincial Priorities Survey. We'll put it in the show notes on YouTube and in the podcast so you can participate. You can always learn more about what they're doing at the Alberta Chambers of Commerce by visiting abchamber.ca. Amazing things happening at Athabasca University this time of year. I'm on it. I'm checking their Instagram every single day because they're doing these graduate features. So cool to see. And it gives you a good idea of what the cross-section of the student population looks like. You've got parents who are now empty nesters and heading back. You've got like the 18, 19-year-olds, high school grads ready to enter the workforce. You've got new Canadians. You've got people that maybe stay-at-home parents that never thought about going to university. And now at age 55, they're kicking off their undergrad. I mean, just totally inspiring stories, and it just reiterates that there's a fit for everybody at Athabasca University. That's why they're Canada's open university. You can learn more about how AU works by checking out their website, athabascau.ca. Flexible study options, accessibility for students around the globe, personalized learning plans, and more. That's athabascau.ca. Our friends at Kubi Energy reminding you, if you want to get solar panels up on your roof anywhere in Western Canada this summer, you've got to get in touch with them right now. Their installation schedule is filling fast. That's because they're providing innovative solar solutions for every home and business in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and beyond. Get a free quote today by visiting kubi.ca. That's Kuby.ca. And don't forget, at ryanjesperson.com, under the events link, you can register your foursome for the Real Talk Golf Classic coming up Thursday, June 18th, 2 p.m. shotgun at the ranch, presented by Kubi Energy. And before we get back to Calgary's Mayor Jeromy Farkas, I want to remind you that Alberta wins with Play Alberta because all revenue stays in Alberta, and that makes all the difference. Play Alberta is the only app in the province that puts all of its revenue directly back into supporting programs and services that Albertans rely on every day. So whether you play, bet, or buy with casino, sports, or lottery, know that your fun also makes a difference across the province. You can learn more by visiting playalberta.ca/realtalk. That's playalberta.ca/realtalk. You've got to be 18 or over to play, and if you gamble, use your game sense. Real Talkers, courtesy of our friends at Play Alberta, we have 4 courtside seats to give away to the Edmonton Stingers game next Saturday, June 13th. They're hosting Scarborough. This is courtesy of Play Alberta. To qualify, send us an Alberta win. Send an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com with a story, maybe an individual. Tell us about someone you know that's making Alberta proud. Send that Alberta win to talk@ryanjesperson.com between now and mid next week. We'll make the draw on Wednesday, and we'll send one lucky Real Talker to sit courtside with 4 seats as the Edmonton Stingers host Scarborough on June 13th. Calgary's Mayor Jeromy Farkas joining us in our feature interview ahead of FCM meetings through the day. The Premier is down in both of our home city. I guess, is it still my home city? I mean,
we still claim you. I'm still proud of you, Ryan.
Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of glad to. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's like the King Solomon thing, man. Cut me in half. But the Rail Master Plan, and this is one where I think a lot of people will be curious to know exactly where the province endeavors to go on this. There's been talk of high-speed rail between between Calgary and Edmonton. It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned to have rail out to the national parks, including Banff. Yep. What are you expecting to hear? What do you know? What can you tell us?
Well, just really appreciate the Premier's leadership on this. She's shown, I think, a long-term view that rarely politicians do in terms of how we're going to get there. And, maybe we're not building this overnight, but having a plan that we can work towards, I think, is really essential. Devil's going to be in the details in terms of what level of subsidy or support that these types of operations would require from the provincial government. I'm certainly open to a Calgary Airport to downtown to Banff rail connection, but priority for us is probably getting sticking the landing on Green Line, making sure that we can move people within the city to the airport. So, I'll be having an open mind to see what she's presenting, but just really appreciate hers and Minister Dreeshen's leadership on this.
I think that the argument, and I think that if you had, if you were able to connect the province by way of rail, I think, a straight shot through to Fort McMurray would make perfect sense. I know that it would be great. I mean, it would add a lot of economic activity. I think for Red Deer, it'd be like the rail version of Gasoline Alley kind of idea. You know what I mean? Getting out to the national parks is a no-brainer. It would take political will. It wouldn't be cheap. It would maybe be like some sort of a P3 partnership. What's your sense of the political will that it would take? What sort of a risk might a government take on? I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is where you think the public's at on this.
I think it could bring more economic development opportunities, especially to our First Nations partners. It could be to other rural areas, because if there's a rail connection between, say, Calgary and Banff, as an example, it's going to stop in Cochrane. It's going to stop at the Stoney Nation, as an example, right? So it can bring us closer together. And I actually think it's also a province or a nation-building project in that it could bridge some of that rural and urban divide. And it's also good for not just tourism, but I think about Calgary, our airport as a corridor. A lot of service industry jobs there, a lot of goods movements, logistics. So it's as much getting those commuters to their jobs than it is necessarily having a visitor get off a plane and be able to enjoy more Calgary while they're at it. So I want to intercept as many people as possible who are hopping off a plane today, hopping on a bus and going to Banff. Let's get them downtown. Let's get them to Heritage Park. Let's get them to the Science Center. Let's show off more of Calgary. So I think that we can definitely benefit. But again, the devil's going to be the details, because there's massive amount of investment that's required.
Yeah.
Not just for capital, but to maintain the operations ongoing. And when I have, say, North Central Calgary, North Trail High School on the Green Line map, I want to get that urban rail as quickly as possible in place as well. So it's competing needs as well at this time.
Okay. I'm getting a little concerned for your well-being as another cold beer has been purchased by Ambustion. You don't have to drink them all before
Can I donate it to your charity classic?
Yeah. Oh, to the golf classic. Yeah, we're covered. We're we have enough booze at the golf classic, but thank you. But Ambustion says enough about separation. Okay, so this comment came in a couple of minutes ago. Says, but how about we get municipal fiber line? Says, I've had a line in my street for 5 years. TELUS won't hook it up. Says, you're a great mayor, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Things like that. People must put. Fiber. I don't know if you have a specific comment on fiber. I don't expect you to call out TELUS as the mayor of Calgary, but like things like that. Issues.
TELUS, connect this man to fiber, please.
By order of his worship. But you must, that's like when you talk about the difference, experienced city councilor, but relatively new or rookie mayor, you've been on the job for, 8 months or something like that ish, approximately.
Yep.
It probably takes some getting used to. You'll have people with like compelling cases. And a lot of times when folks reach the mayor's office or they're showing up at City Hall, it's out of desperation. They've tried everything else. Does that take some getting used to, and realizing that many people have very real issues and you can't spread yourself thin enough to help them with all of them? How do you manage that?
Well, you can actually deal with things at the municipal level in a way that you just can't provincially or federally. Like, we are solving problems. We're installing stop signs, crosswalks at schools. We're fixing the big water pipe. We're more than half done completing a 4-year project in less than 1 year, right? So when you want to move, you can move at the municipal level in a way that you can't in a partisan environment. And I respect my counterparts at the provincial and federal level, but to the point of even on fiber, right? So we're talking about a $50 billion infrastructure need for Calgary over the next 10 years. And that's fiber, that's roads, that's water pipes, it's rail, it's rec centers, it's maybe a downtown police station. station. All of this stuff is things that we're going to have to pay for anyway, and just passing the buck to future generations is only going to make it more expensive. So we're seeking greater partnership with the federal government, with the provincial government, because we know about 80% of the costs are borne by municipal governments, and we only receive about 8% of the overall funding in terms of tax revenue and support. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be in Calgary and Edmonton and Alberta, and just really grateful to be in this role.
I'm curious to talk to you about downtown safety, crime, the opioid crisis, and the like. There's been an interesting story developing in Edmonton over the past couple of weeks. Edmonton's Police Chief Warren Dreichel, who's had like PR issues of his own over the past 6 months. That's a fact. But it strikes me anecdotally that he has found some favor in Edmonton recently by announcing that Edmonton police are going to be cracking down on open drug use, that it's gotten out of control, that businesses and downtown businesses are suffering, and they're demanding that the police do something about it. So they hold this news conference a short time ago, and the notable absences of Edmonton city councilors, of Edmonton's mayor, like none of them were there, which was pretty interesting. Now they're saying, oh, we weren't notified and we would have been there and whatever. But I think the optics around it all is like, it reiterates what I think most people have known to be the case, and that is that Edmonton's council, including under the previous mayor, Sohi, to describe them as at odds with the Edmonton police would not go far enough. Like if you get, I don't know if I should say this, but like, you know, if you get former Chief Dale McPhee, who's now in a senior position of leadership with the province, if you get him talking, you get a really clear sense of how poorly that relationship was going. And it just kind of blows my mind. And it's very interesting now to see Edmonton police moving forward. A similar situation was when Edmonton police were cracking down on a lot of the encampments, and it almost looked like this was a short time ago, a number of months ago. I would say maybe 18 months ago, within the last 2 years, and it sort of looked like they were maybe in cahoots with the province on it. But I know that Edmonton's then mayor was outraged about it. They're not playing nice. It doesn't strike like the two organizations, you know, the Edmonton City Council and the Edmonton Police Service are getting along very well. And I would love to hear from either the EPS or city councilors that believe that's not the case. But I know what I see, and I know what I see people saying in Edmonton. What's the story in Calgary? What are you doing about it? What's your relationship like with Calgary's chief and with the Calgary Police Service? Give us a sense of what's happening in the southern part of the province.
Well, firstly, one of the reasons I'm here in Edmonton is because of our Big City Mayor's Caucus, and front and center on the agenda for yesterday was revitalizing downtowns from coast to coast to coast. So the conversation was really about public safety. It was about social disorder, drug use, addictions, recovery, treatment, housing. And we know in Calgary's case, it's about 50 to 100 individuals who are responsible for about 90 to 95% of the repeat attacks on property against people. And it might not be popular for me to say, but those people need to be held accountable. So I strongly support enforcement action on that piece, but we can't conflate the unhoused population with those repeat violent offenders. We need to tackle both the symptoms when it comes to, say, open drug use, especially on transit, public spaces downtown, but we also need to be even harder on the causes. So addictions, recovery, treatment, mental health. I wish, Ryan, that this was a problem we could just throw more cops at. But in my case, a really good working relationship with our police chief. Chief McClellan's very engaged with our social sector as well as the preventative agencies. So it's not just about being seen to be tough. It's about actually helping those vulnerable people get out of harm's way, connecting them with housing, referrals. That's most of the work of the police, is actually connecting those individuals with the resources that they need to be able to prevent the problem from reoccurring. So yes, let's lay down the hammer on those repeat violent offenders, the people that we know we need to hold accountable. Let's get the help from the province and the feds on the sentencing and bail reform to deal with that. But let's not kid ourselves. We can't just throw police at this problem. I wish it was that simple. But for me, as a regular transit user, as somebody who's worked in the not-for-profit sector, big supporter of the Alex, Hope Mission, and other organizations, I know that it's not that simple.
Are you seeing an impact in a negative sense of like as Alberta implements its it's essentially its mental health and addiction strategy basically, but you know what, I think on a positive side, the province is investing hundreds of millions of dollars in these new recovery centers,
and that should be applauded.
Absolutely, 100%. I support that 100%. I have questions around the in layperson's terms, basically detaining people or arresting people and putting people into treatment against their will. I've had very interesting conversations about that with people, and I'm open-minded on the idea around it. There's no debate that this is an unmitigated healthcare crisis, the opioid crisis across the country for sure. But I do have some reservations around that. What I have a real problem with, or what I find to be tragic, is that the province is defunding supervised consumption services like frontline harm reduction resources across the province, including the
women's shelters and other services, 100%. Right? That we know that, you know, it's upstream. This problem began 5 to 10 years ago. So.
But nobody wants to hear this government say we inherited this problem from a previous government. It's like you got to solve it. You got to do something about it. Are you seeing negative impacts in Calgary as a result of some of those funding cuts and program cuts?
Certainly, yes. And I know other agencies, like say the Alex, that's close to my heart. I served as a board director there, has endured some significant cuts on that. And we're going to continue to make the case. I know I really respect Minister Nixon's leadership on this. He's been really great to work with on the housing file. I know his own personal family story takes this very seriously. So really positive conversation we had a couple weeks back with Minister Wilson on this. So we're going to continue to advocate, but again, we're here as partners. We all want the same thing, and really appreciate the province's leadership to want to. I think they state, the Premier states that she really wants to tackle this for good, not pass the buck and make it somebody else's problem. Let's deal with this here now, and at least here in the city of Calgary, we're willing partners on that.
Okay, we had this question submitted, and I want to wrap with this. I know you got to roll.
All right, let's do it.
This is so great. A lot of
Is it the flamethrower?
No. Do you want me to read it in the voice of the flamethrower?
You know, if you ever get a flamethrower about me, I will come and you can flamethrower me into my face.
Oh wow! Okay.
I know somewhere I think my comms team is. Having
who would we be? Who are we stealing that from, Johnny? I think it's who launched mean tweets. It was like, who was the original? Was it Jimmy Kimmel?
Probably Jimmy Kimmel.
I don't know. I don't know who it was. Apologies. I should give credit, but we could do like a Jeromy Farkas mean tweets edition. Here's the question submitted by an audience member. A lot of Albertans, including some conservatives, spend their time telling people what's wrong with Calgary or Edmonton. What's one thing? I love this question. What's one thing that Edmonton does better than Calgary, and what's one thing that Calgary does better than Edmonton?
Ooh, you know, I'm a big booster of the art scene in Calgary. I've been a big champion of like Loose Moose Improv Theater, local arts organizations. We have the Workland Center transformation happening right now. But I'd say the art scene is a little bit more vibrant. You got Rapid Fire. I saw a bunch of folks from Citadel Theater came down for the opening night from Come From Away. So I think the arts is a little bit ahead of us right now, and Calgary's about to catch up though.
Yeah, and what's one thing that Calgary does better, do you think?
Than Edmonton? Oh gosh, it's probably not water pipes at this point, but
you gotta give us something.
You know, I'm gonna say it's the energy. It's the year-round activity. Like I had the opportunity to come back. I think when I was on your show, maybe in February or March. Like it just seemed Edmonton really seemed dead downtown. Whereas something about Calgary is like there's something going on. Like we have our Chinook Blast. We have programming, events, festivals. I'm not just saying this because I work in downtown Calgary, but there's always something going on. It's not just the Stampede. It's ethnic, cultural festivals. Like my calendar is maybe 15 to 20 events every single weekend that I could be going to, right? So there's a lot of programming, especially in the evenings, and that would be my constructive advice for Edmonton. Find maybe some more grants for local community leagues. Find ways that you can invest in some of the programming so that the downtown especially remains a place that people want to hang out outside of the 9 to 5 or outside of the Oilers games.
Yeah, well, I would say that when Edmonton separates from Alberta, the best part is that we're getting $500 billion from the Americans, you know? Yeah, so we're going to be able to, no one's going to pay any property taxes. It's going to be amazing, but we are going to need the girls to start having more babies, okay? So that's going to be great. Mayor, this is my soft launch for mayor of a sovereign Edmonton.
Yes.
Thanks for making time for us. We always appreciate it.
Always a pleasure,
Thanks for being a great friend of the show. That's Calgary's Mayor Jeromy Farkas joining us in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Mayor did an amazing job teeing up this important message from our friends at the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. You can find them online at acws.ca. Mayor, take that mug back to Calgary with you. That's for you, brother. Thank you for being a friend of the show. acws.ca. As Mayor mentioned, if you're listening from rural Alberta right now, there's a really good chance the government of Alberta just cut funding to your local women's shelter. Rates of domestic violence are highest in rural communities, and women in these areas already have less access to housing, transportation, and community services. But the government has just announced funding cuts to more than a dozen shelters, most of them serving rural communities. Some of these are going into effect over the next number of weeks. The Alberta Council of Women's Shelters is asking the province to pause and rethink these devastating cuts, and they need your help. Women and children escaping violence across the province need your help. If you check out acws.ca, you can directly link to a form that will allow you to send a letter to your local MLA. This is a message from the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. If you're going to be flying through Edmonton International Airport, YEG, anytime soon, you need to know about YEG Plus. This is Canada's first airport loyalty program, and it couldn't be more simple. You earn 1 point for every dollar you spend at the airport. That could be parking, grabbing a bite, buying a new neck pillow, whatever shopping you're doing before you fly. As your points build, you'll unlock perks, bonus points, partner discounts, free parking. How nice would that be? You can redeem your points for gift cards, exclusive offers, and more. So the next time you're at YEG, make sure you're getting rewarded. You can sign up at yegplus.com/realtalk. That's yegplus.com/realtalk. Hey, this is a huge opportunity for business owner operators, and I'm going to say regardless of what you do or what industry you serve. You know, when a lot of people hear military contract, they think of weapons and fighter jets and heavy artillery, but here's the truth. The Department of National Defense also buys from catering companies and cleaning companies and IT firms and carpenters and hundreds of other everyday businesses. Canada's getting set to spend $63 billion. Some of that funding is already being deployed. $63 billion on defense this year, and the money needs to go somewhere, and Edmonton businesses are in a position to get it. And that's why on June 16th, the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce is hosting its first ever Defense Procurement Summit. This is your chance to meet the buyers, to get registered, to leave ready to bid. Somebody is going to see their business boom. There's no doubt about that. You can check out the events link if you'd like to register today by way of the Chamber events calendar. That's online at edmontonchamber.com. And a message from our friends at North Road Investment Council. One of the reasons we're really proud to partner with this investment firm is trust and the importance of trust. They're an independent Alberta firm that works with successful families, business owners, and professionals who want objective financial advice built around their goals, not around some sort of a sales target. And North Road Investment Council is growing. They're looking for a client service associate to join their Edmonton team. If you have experience in financial services, if you love helping people, if you love working in an office environment, this could be a tremendous opportunity for you. They're also looking for experienced wealth management professionals across the province. So if you hold a CFA or a CFP designation, if you have experience working with high net worth families, North Road offers true independence. Their team focuses on evidence-based investing, thoughtful tax-aware portfolio management, and long-term trust-based relationship. If you'd like to work for a firm where your advice can make a real difference and where clients come before corporate agendas, North Road would love to hear from you. You can connect with them today at northroadic.com. Appreciate all of these incredible comments in our live chat powered by Park Power, including some of you chiming in on which of the big Alberta cities you think has a more vibrant art scene. That's a healthy debate. I got all the time in the world for that. Ms. KD, thanks for your contribution on the super chat as well. A fourth beer from Mayor Farkas. Gosh, we better let him get out of here with the sparkling water. Ms. KD says the Green Line lost for a train to Banff. Does the mayor think the train was more important than the thousands who would benefit from the Green Line? Ms. KD, appreciate the question. Wish I would have had that in front of me. That's a me problem, not a you problem. When Mayor was still in here. He'll be back, and of course you can always ask Mayor Farkas a question next time you see him pop up in our live chat. He's in there a lot. Let's turn our attention to a very important conversation across Alberta, certainly across the country, but in particular in our home city, Alberta's capital city of Edmonton. For a lot of you, Hope Mission is synonymous with homelessness, with houselessness, right? Maybe you think of that orange and white ambulance. Maybe you think of emergency shelter beds, hot meals, of course the heartbreaking scenes that you see playing out downtown. The reality is that Hope's mission and the story of Hope Mission and its work is much bigger and much broader than that. It's actually founded during the Great Depression, almost 100 years ago. This is just wild how Hope Mission has evolved from a soup kitchen into Alberta's largest social care organization, at least among them, providing everything from emergency shelter and outreach to addiction recovery, housing supports, healthcare services, school lunch programs, after-school programs, summer camps for vulnerable children. The list goes on. In Edmonton alone, Hope has become the city's largest provider of shelter shelter, and hot meals, while also helping people navigate housing, healthcare, identification, income supports, and recovery. And all of this is happening at a time when a lot of you feel like you're hanging on by a thread. We're talking a lot about housing affordability or inaffordability. We're talking about addiction, mental health challenges, food insecurity, economic uncertainty. So today, the mission, the mandate of this Real Talk Roundtable is to go beyond the headlines, the stereotypes, and the misconceptions, and understand better who Hope Mission serves in 2026 and what Edmontonians most misunderstand about this institution. Joining me in studio today is Hope Mission Senior Director Tim Pasma, the Director of Health Services Beth Klingenberg, and Director of Emergency Care and Housing Ade Adeoye. Welcome to the Real Talk studio. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having us.
You know, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little bit guilty of something, and I think it's like a good guilty in a way, because every time I see when it's minus 25 or when it's plus 30 for that matter, that orange and white Hope ambulance, I mutter, under my breath, I say, way to go, guys. Awesome, guys. Way to go. And it reminds me that Hope's out there, literally saving lives on the front line. But then I've also been guilty of kind of thinking that that's what Hope's all about. An emergency shelter and the response ambulance to keep people from freezing to death outside. And I haven't had, up until recently, a really fulsome and deep understanding of what Hope Mission's all about.
Yeah. Well, Hope Mission has a broad continuum of services, and I think that's common. We're well known for emergency shelter, for mobile outreach, for the meals that you see downtown Edmonton. But the reality is Hope Mission is an Alberta-wide organization serving in multiple different cities and smaller municipalities across Alberta. And to really understand Hope Mission, you really have to go back to the history, to the Great Depression, as you mentioned, 1929. Is when Hope Mission was founded, and by Reverend Harold Edwardson and his wife Hilly. And at that time, it was the Great Depression, and there was people that were unemployed, high rates of poverty, all sorts of crises, which we all know, across North America, across the world. And at that time, the message from Reverend Edwardson and his wife was, the need is the call. And so they responded to the need that they saw, and they started a small soup kitchen. And they started with, as I understand it, space for 12 people. And within less than a year, they had to expand, and they were already looking for a new space. And really, that's the story of the mission ever since, is we've been expanding and growing to serve the need, and the need is the call.
Yeah. Is it easy to describe or difficult to describe how need for these services has evolved over 100 years? Like, it was obviously established at a time of great need, and we're at a time of great need right now. Has that just been consistent for basically 100 years?
Well, I think so. I think there's just, you go through multiple evolutions as an organization over time, and I think that continuum of services that we're talking about really has evolved. I mean, you start as a soup kitchen, and you start layering in all sorts of different programs and supports and things like that as time goes. But certainly also in the last number of years since the pandemic, we've seen especially a lot of growth in the number of people experiencing homelessness and need in our province. And Hope Mission has been there to try to rise to the occasion and rise to meet the need. We don't always want to see growth in our sector, in the sense of we want to see less homelessness, not more. But at the same time, we want to be there to support people in need.
Beth, you're Director of Health Services. I would imagine that a lot of the things, this is kind of a weird way for me to frame a question, but a lot of the stuff that people don't know about Hope is a lot of the stuff that you and your team are working really hard on. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And I think many times we're working in the gaps and the places where people are falling through. So inevitably, a lot of our work kind of goes a little bit unnoticed. But really, again, we're just there to try to make sure that that client gets from point A to point B, and that we can just be the support to get them there. So
what do health services look like at Hope? You're going to say to me, well, thousands of, do we say clients or?
We still use community members.
Community members, love that. Yeah. So thousands of community members every year. Obviously, thousands and thousands would be utilizing Hope services. What does the broad offering of services look like? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients, are moving through the system, and because we have the opportunity to offer all those services, they can really kind of move through that, seamlessly. A client might wake up and they have a housing appointment. They need to get their ID done. And throughout all that, they still have their wounds that need to be taken care of. They have, so many ailments that they're struggling with. They're having a hard time communicating and getting the supports that they need. And so throughout our continuum of services, we can help with that, but then especially too in health services, our job is really to advocate for them and make sure that we're helping break down those barriers and connecting them to the right spots.
Ade, Director of Emergency Care and Housing. This is frontline. Director of Emergency Care. When I'm describing these, minus 30, minus 40 with wind chill, these Edmonton nights. This is the stuff that you and your team are managing.
Yes,
that's tough. That's heavy lifting.
It is, absolutely. Kind of like you described, our teams in emergency care. We have the mobile outreach team supporting at a street level Edmontonians at risk. And then we have our shelter operations for people. It's a landing spot. It's a temporary stopgap measure, and that from there people can start to connect with supports as appropriate to, get them further along in the wellness journey. And so our mobile outreach programs, housing programs, I think, no, not housing. So mobile outreach, shelters, a little bit of health. I think health would span. Emergency care, and then a little bit of follow-up care. And now I'm talking about categories. I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of myself, talking about how we've sort of codified our continuum of care offerings. We have preventative care, we have emergency care, we have follow-up care, and we have restorative care. But yes, our emergency care would be shelter operations and mobile outreach operations.
By the way, don't worry about getting ahead of yourself. These Real Talk roundtables, we just grab coffees, we shoot the breeze, basically chew the fat, ask questions. Audience members are going to have questions as we kind of seek to understand the offerings. There are a considerable number of questions about the organization's roots in as a faith-based organization. And I'd like to clarify that or learn better about that myself. Tony and Marie have questions. Marie says, well, I don't know that I can support an organization that pushes religion. Is conversion requisite for participating in Hope's programs?
No, it's not. And I mean, I'm glad the question came up.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
That's an important one that we address. So Hope Mission is a Christian organization. It's an organization that's where it was founded, as I mentioned earlier. But everybody's welcome at our doors. And we are not an organization that's forcing people to, read scripture or pray when they come into our doors for emergency shelter. Of course, spiritual care is available for people that would like that to be offered to them, but we're here to support everybody in need that's coming to our doors, and that's a big focus for the mission.
I'm checking out, by the way, people can reference hopemission.com and we'll pop it into the show notes, but you can read about the organization's values, the mission, the vision, the values that guide the organization. And Real Talkers, I'll mention early in this conversation, that's also where you can donate and also find ways to get involved. There's a number of different ways that you can support Hope Mission. Again, all of it very well organized on the website at hopemission.com. Are we talking about, like we hear often of this continuum of care model, where the idea is that perhaps like Ade and his team, interact with someone or welcomes, someone, to the mission, like amid like really trying sort of like survival type circumstance. And then perhaps over a period of days or weeks or months or years or who knows, this individual ends up, walking out of there or contributing to society in a different way, with sort of like their personal health restored, that kind of idea. Is that the vision that guides you? Is this journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, when people walk into the doors, we're seeing them in a situation that is often tragic, traumatic. There's a lot of things that have gone on, but we know that person has so much to them. They have their personality, they have their goals, they have their dreams, and to be a part of that walk and to be able to be somebody to help them get back to where they, should be or wanted to be or anything like that is such a blessing to be a part of. And so, yeah, we have clients who show up to our doors with terrible frostbite that, have just lost their job, just lost their house, and we're able to work with them and get to know them over years sometimes, and just to see that success when they finally get to that housing. And so many times they've come back to visit, and you just see, they've put on so much more weight again. They have so much glow to them. They have so much, just hope again that there's more to than just being in a shelter.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm reading Mike's story here on your website at Hope Mission, and this gentleman says, I had no job, no home, no belongings. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. Mike's testimonial is featured as part of a bigger focus on the fact, Ade, that right now it says people in our community. When we say our community, let's remember this is, we're talking 1 million people. These are people in our community. There are people I think that are visibly and obviously experiencing challenges, and then there's a lot of people that are maybe silently or in the shadows experiencing these exact same challenges. I think as blessed sort of members of society that haven't had to think about food insecurity or housing insecurity, maybe it's off some of our radar. But your team is almost sounding the alarm, saying people in our community facing hunger unlike any other time in recent memory.
Yes.
You're like, oh yeah. You're not surprised, obviously. Why is that? What are you seeing?
I mean, and I guess a good way to frame this would be, so when I started working in the sector 9 years ago, we would serve, so at the meal lines we'll host 300 people and we'll feel like, oh, that's a really packed meal line. And now the numbers are 800, 900 people per meal line, and we're talking, breakfast, just one meal line. You were saying we could see up to 800, 900 people in that. So the need definitely has tripled, and I think some of that has to do with, just like you said, there's just economic factors. There's rising cost of living. It's people are having to face that difficult choice of, do I pay my rent or do I pay for food? And I don't know that it's always been the case, but the need definitely, I think, like Tim mentioned, has evolved over the course of the last 10 years. So we're seeing more and more people at our doors, and we're trying our very best to support them as much as we can.
Am I reading these numbers correct, that Hope served over 1 million meals last year?
Yep.
Over 1 million?
Those are real numbers, yep. Absolutely.
How do you even fund that? Like, can we talk about that? Like, bottom line?
There's a lot that goes into our operation, actually, and I think people probably would be surprised to see the sophistication of everything that we do. Because we have government partners that we work with on some of these challenges that we face as a community, but then we also have donors that support us that make all of this possible. When it comes to food, we have also a lot of different partnerships with different grocers in the city. We try to find every way that we can get food for low cost. Which then brings down the cost of meals, of course, and we can produce more and provide more. So all of those things really go into actually making this happen. It's actually a fairly large network of, trucks and vehicles and things like that, driving around the city, picking things up. We work with the food bank. We work with different groups. So our kitchen can produce all sorts of meals, and they've gotten pretty efficient at what they do. So it's a pretty interesting operation, actually.
There's got to be like heroes at every level of your organization, hey? Like I would think
sure.
that, and I'm not saying you don't thank them, but I would imagine that, you're working in the kitchen at Hope Mission. It's not exactly like a celebrity chef position, but these people are probably manifesting miracles every single day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're working all out to try to make this work every day.
Yeah.
Like 365, like every day. And so for sure, and I would include the people doing janitorial, people doing maintenance, people doing all sorts of tasks.
Totally.
To serve people in need and to kind of keep things moving forward.
You must have almost like a security personnel there as well. I mean, how do you manage all that kind of stuff?
We have all of our frontline staff. So we work with them. We have a very large training program that we run people through. But yeah, no, they're all right there on the front lines, and it's not always pretty. It's not always easy, of course. But there's a larger purpose to the work we do, and so we're here for the community and for the people we serve.
Why do you do what you do, Beth?
Like I said, just to see people have that hope and that joy again, and to what I like to say is meet people for that first time, who they truthfully are, is just, again, it's an amazing opportunity to see that. So I do that for them. I do that for the chance to just see them be able to be who they are, and even if society left them behind, and even if they didn't have the supports and services, just knowing that they are strong enough and capable enough to do what they wanted to do from the start.
What drew you to it, Ade?
Oh, what drew me to it? I stumbled into it.
Really?
Yeah, but and then once I got into the work, I found out that this was the funnest work I'd ever done in my life. And so
funnest?
100%.
Really? Like the most rewarding? Like, what do you mean?
The most rewarding, the most energizing. I think,
because I bet people that love you worry about you and the I know my brother worked in East Hastings in Vancouver for like a decade, and I'm so proud of him, proud of him, and also every day I worried about him. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And I think for me, I think that there's a natural calling I think I have to this work as well. I think so. From working at Hope Mission, I have so many stories. But those stories of just human to human moments, and the opportunity to connect with an individual when they're, at a low point is therapeutic for them, but also therapeutic for me. And so it's been, just the opportunity to be able to connect with people and meet them where they're at and provide support and get them to the next stage of their life and help them move further along in their wellness journey. That, I think, is fulfilling on its own.
Christine's watching us, our live stream presented by California Closets, actually out of BC, but she says, I've got a huge respect for Hope Mission and for all shelters. She says, I wish they weren't necessary. She says in BC, her frame of reference says we're grossly overcrowded. Many people fear staying in shelters. They fear the violence, the theft. She says the whole thing is heartbreaking. What would you say? I mean, that is the reality of it all, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely hear those comments, and we definitely feel it too. The pressures when you see more and more people coming to your doors. Of course, it becomes more challenging to provide that one-on-one care that you want to provide to everybody. If you're providing mats on a floor as opposed to bed spaces, as opposed to you want to have enough storage for people. You want to have a safe environment that people feel comfortable coming to. But obviously it is a challenging environment at the same time. We also have a dream one day that there will be no emergency shelters. That would be, if we were unemployed because, homelessness is no longer, I think we would be thrilled about that.
If you guys solve homelessness, just run for the next city council.
Yeah,
you
totally.
can fight over who gets to be mayor. There you go. Or premier for that matter.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. And I mean, our goal is to move people through the emergency shelters. We don't want people to be lingering in emergency shelters. We want them to find appropriate supports and set them up well to move into community or into different forms of housing, recovery, whatever it is.
I've heard, and I think that there's a parallel here, and you hear this about like emergency shelters, homeless shelters, so to speak, and also supervised consumption and harm reduction. And I've heard what I believe to be a misconception, but some people believe that homeless shelters don't reduce homelessness; they kind of perpetuate it. I would love to invite you to hit that one head on.
Yeah, I mean this is a great conversation. I mean, we could talk about this all day. Homeless shelters are a critical piece of, our society in the sense of we have to have them to support the people in need and be that safety net. But shelters are very much like we said, we don't see shelters as the solution to homelessness in any respect. We see shelters as a necessary safety net to support people and help them, on their wellness journey to housing, to recovery, health through health services, into permanent supports and stability. And so it really becomes that gateway to supports. Yeah. And that's the critical piece of what a shelter should be. Yeah. And that's what we aim to develop our shelters as when we're discussing our operational models and how we're setting things up.
I'd love to have you guys are both nodding. I want to invite you to contribute. What would you add to what he's saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think unfortunately a lot of times these things and these needs come up because people don't have connections to resources and supports. And so for us, really what we want to do is build that connection, build that resource, build that support for them, and then let them go on their own, right? We're, again, not trying to keep people in the shelter. We're not trying to keep people stuck in the situation. Naturally, as a nurse as well, I would like somebody to heal and to get better. And that's the same thing for what we do. We would like people to move on and, get out of that space that they're in. But while they're there, we will be the ones to help them, support them, and build that network for them.
Yeah. This is kind of a loaded question. I'm curious to pick all three of your brains on this. I remember, was it Stephen Mandel or Don Iveson? I think it was Mandel that first came out as mayor and said they wanted to solve homelessness within 10 years, wasn't it? I think it was like Mandel, and then Iveson inherited it and whatever. And then it just, I don't mean whatever, but even at the time, I remember, working in morning news at the time, a lot of people were like, oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Okay. But then you'd hear about these jurisdictions where globally people would say, well, they kind of effectively did end homelessness in certain communities. Do you believe that's possible?
That is a loaded question.
And I'm not trying to put you in a tough spot, but
no.
All I know is we have these live chat. My whole career, I've been surrounded by text lines and live chat and call-in shows, and all I know is that a certain segment of the population does not believe. And I'm not saying these are people experiencing homelessness, so that needs to be noted. They don't believe that it can be solved, and they're not sure that everybody really truly wants to be helped in that way.
So let me answer it this way. So we believe that the goal is that homelessness is rare. that it is brief and non-recurring. And if we can make that the target, I think it's more achievable. It's a more feasible goal to attain. Like Tim said, I think, there will be people that fall on hard times, and they just need a landing spot, right? A critical safety net. And then, from there, they can sort of get connected to appropriate supports. And that's what we find, actually. I think the data suggests that for most people that use our shelters, the vast majority actually, it's temporary. It was just a momentary thing. They needed it for, and then they were able to self-resolve. And so I think, just saying it, that enhance the continuum of care, right? And so, so we have the shelter operation, but then in our shelters, we embed all types of supports, health supports, housing supports, recovery programs, or recovery-oriented supports as well. But I think making it's a more attainable goal when we say it should be brief, rare, and non-recurring.
I love that. Rare, brief, and non-recurring. I wrote it down. I love that. I don't know that I've ever heard that before, but it like so succinctly summarizes. Those are almost like, they're both short and long-term goals.
Well,
right?
I didn't come up with it, so I should say that.
Okay, well, you passed it along to me, so you'll at least get the credit there. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think one of the things that we're also getting at here is it's important to understand that homelessness is not just a one type of person issue, right?
Totally.
It's so diverse. We have people that are coming to the shelters because they're recently unemployed, people that are coming to the shelters because they're newcomers to Canada. There are people coming to the shelters because, they might have significant mental health and addiction challenges. So you have that range of different people. So you have to have that range of supports for people. There's a spectrum of supports that people are all going to have a different journey. And so when we talk about, ending homelessness and specifically also ending chronic homelessness, I think those are the things that we're really trying to talk about, is we have these range of different options and supports so that people aren't lingering in the shelter system too long, or people aren't lingering in encampments too long, that we're able to support them quickly to get them out of that situation before they become entrenched in the system.
Yeah. How has the opioid crisis impacted all of this? Like, I have to assume if you talk to anyone in law enforcement, politics, community service, it's huge. It's talk to my friends who are firefighters. I mean, like, it's impacting everybody. But candidly, what are you up against?
Oh, it's insane at this point. I know that even just 5 years ago, there was maybe an overdose in maybe a few in a week. That's about it. At this point, some of our teams, our rapid response teams, are showing up to, up to 30 overdoses in a 12-hour shift. So to go from just a couple in a week to 30 in 12 hours is just astronomical. And it's hard to see, people get really stuck in a cycle, and it's really, really difficult to get out of. And, the supply has gotten so much more mixed and poisoned, and, people are still struggling with their mental health issues in the middle of that. They're being taken advantage. It's spiraled into a really, really complicated and really, really tragic mess.
You seen the same thing? Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think just the other day you were talking to Ade about when you started. To see one overdose was rare. And now, I mean, we see so many, and the need is so high. And I think the big focus is also how do we start to work at addressing these challenges that we face. It's one thing we have our rapid response team, which is responding, which is great because we're keeping people alive and we're giving people opportunities to achieve their version of wellness and to support them. But we really want to see our community start to be healthier and thrive and, improve people's lives, and so that's the big focus, but that's also a challenge in this environment and with the opioid crisis and other drug poisoning, toxic drug crisis.
So you've got this new program, Hope Health, right?
Yep.
And my understanding, your eyes just lit up when I mentioned it. Okay, I'm coming to you first on this one. But my understanding is that it sort of seems like new territory for people might understand from like a traditional, like a homeless serving agency. What's Hope Health all about?
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely new territory for us, but it makes so much sense, right? Our clients are going through their day and coming across so many situations that affect their health. Many of our clients have been assaulted. They have been robbed. They have, frostbite that comes up for them. And when you're struggling with these complex medical issues while still trying to attain some of these other goals, it's really hard. And so we're really just there to make sure that community member has, the support that they need to heal some of those injuries injuries and illnesses so that they can focus on that.
So is this like an example of the organization evolving as in direct response to need? Is this kind of a forward-thinking thing? How innovative would this be as stacked up to what other community services might be doing across Canada?
Yeah, I think it certainly is a response to need that we see. We know we have a lot of underserved people in the population, and I think when we started, when we opened up our, the main shelter downtown, the Herb Jameson Center, we had a low mobility shelter. And we started with one nurse, and we sort of started developing this program, and we saw a real need. And I think through that experience, we thought, there's a real need for more enhanced supports here. Now, of course, if somebody needs to go to hospital or needs emergent care, that's where they should be. And we try to facilitate that, of course. So we're not replacing a hospital. But what we're trying to do is provide supports right on site that are a baseline level of service so that people can, receive their medications, they can receive wound care, they can receive care for frostbite, they can have medical assessments right done on site, and then we can start to prepare them for other things like permanent housing, recovery, other supports. So we just saw a real need in the community, and a gap that we really wanted to fill in terms of healthcare for this vulnerable population.
I was, I think it was the Mayor's State of the City event I was hosting. It was a recent event I was hosting. There's been a few of them at the convention center, and a community member, Sandy Pond. I don't know if you know her. She's a realtor. Yep. But you guys know Sandy.
Yeah,
your face just lit up as soon as I mentioned her name. Just got the biggest heart in the world, and also she's a formidable organizer. And she came up to me. She puts her hand on my arm and she says, "When are you going to talk about Chinatown? Like, when are you going to talk more about Chinatown?" We've all seen what's happening there. It's obviously a very difficult situation. I just feel sick for like business owners and community members there. It's been very challenging. There's been some high-profile criminal assaults, a couple of homicides there over the past year or two. It's just unacceptable, basically, and people are visibly struggling, and it obviously has an impact on the entire community. Can we talk about the plan here and how that can improve?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'll take a stab at it, and you guys can jump in, but when it comes to challenges in Chinatown, I mean, one of the things we'd say is we're right there too, and we're part of that community, and we're really there we want to support the community. We want to support Chinatown businesses and the BIA and the different groups that are operating there. And one of the ways that we want to do that is we are looking at trying to decentralize some of the services in the city. And we see that as a model that we could have success at. We developed a shelter on the west side of Edmonton as one of our first steps to see how that could work. And that's gone very well, actually. And so
what would be the metric where you go, okay, it's going really well?
Well, I think going really well is in like, we've seen a lot of really good outcomes at that site. It's serving a population that doesn't actually necessarily always want to go downtown, but may have gone downtown just out of essential need. So that in one, and then, you see positive outcomes of what you can do in a smaller site. Because, when you're talking sites that have 700, 800, 900 people in a 1 block radius, that's not a good thing for anybody. And so when we could pull those spaces out and offer, better staff to client ratios, more supports directly to support people to move on their journey. And then again, like I said, the people that are experiencing homelessness in our city are also members of our city, and they're in all sorts of different areas of our city. And so that's why we're exploring something on the south side as well, to pull some of those spaces out of downtown. Now, we do know we're always going to need some supports downtown, so we're not looking to completely abandon the downtown area, of course. I think that would be a worse situation for our city. But we want to see Chinatown be a vibrant place. We wanted to see the businesses thrive. We want to see our people thrive. Yeah.
I can tell, like, by your body language and the way that your eyes even went when I mentioned Chinatown. It strikes me this is something that you deeply care about.
Well, and then some of the work that I oversee involves outreach to Chinatown and the businesses as well. So we have a Good Neighbors initiative that we've been running for probably 3-4 years now. And so what we do is we have a team, and we've actually just bolstered the team recently that goes around pressure washing the sidewalks of the businesses around the Hope Mission buildings. And also, so we connect as well with business owners. We assist with pressure washing, garbage pickups, cleanups. In the winter, we'll help out with snow removals as well.
Wow!
And so that's how I got to know Sandy Pond. It was from those types of connections and relationships.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
And this is something, it's right in your lap as well, isn't it? It's all right there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, people will talk about people just kind of laying on the sidewalk or overdosed in places. And that's what our teams are really there to go out to help those people, get them back into a healthy state. And so that, there are not people, laying around inside those streets and to really kind of, support, again, those businesses and trying to keep their businesses running. But at the same time, really looking out for our clients and our community members and wherever they might be in whatever situation they might be in.
Chan's watching our live stream on X, on Twitter this morning, just says, thanks to you so much for the informative episode, for spotlighting homelessness. Husker Nation says education and healthcare for everyone. Any successful society has to have those as top priorities. Can we talk about, it's interesting here, one of the things I see on your drop-down menus, again, people can go to hopemission.com. We'll link to it in the show links. Look at this. There's a whole, under our work, you've got emergency care, health, recovery, and prevention. Why don't we talk about reaching young people today? Can you turn off the tap, basically, in a positive sense? Can you provide opportunities for 3 and 5 and 8 and 10 and 15-year-olds?
Yeah, that's one of the big focuses of the mission is, what do we do to support people so that they don't fall into homelessness, into addiction, into poverty? How do we support and intervene at a young age for kids and support families, support single parents, support people who are on the margins, who are really struggling with affordability issues, with all sorts of other challenges? So that prevention side of our organization, it does all of those things. We run, kids camps, we have after school programs, we have youth centers, we have school lunch programs, a range of different programming across Alberta for kids, and to support them, to support their families. We also run family housing programs, wellness programs, which you guys could speak to in more detail, I think. But all of those kinds of supports are critical to trying to, again, have that continuum of services and try to prevent people from entering into homelessness.
This is, I think, a classic example of an area where the average person may not be aware of what Hope's doing in this space.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I had the privilege of starting in preventative programs when I started at Hope Mission. And I was a part of that family wellness program, especially during 2020 when schools closed. And a lot of even our own lunch programs had a hard time, reaching out to those kids that were in need of food. We were able to start that family wellness program and really focus on, providing that to the whole family. And so I had the opportunity to work with parents and to help them struggle through and deal with, not being able to afford their utilities, not being able to pay for their food for their kids, and also as well just struggling with how do I help my kids when they're really struggling with some behavioral issues, especially being out of school. And so, it was really tough at times, hearing a family say, I can't afford my rent, I can't pay for food, I'm going to be homeless in a month, what am I supposed to do? Help me. I think especially being able to have a family housing program has made such a difference. And I know, again, that's really under Ade's platform and his work, but it is an incredible thing to have a family be able to be supported that way when they feel like there's no other opportunities.
And I can't even imagine the pressure that a parent would feel. It's number one, you're going to look after your kids first. It's just kind of this airplane thing where put on your own mask and then put on the bed. That's, parents are do whatever you can to have your child survive. And that's right. Exactly. I guess what you're trying to do in sometimes the most basic and emergency type circumstances.
Oh, absolutely. So if we have families just showing up, looking for supports, from our teams, we already find that to be a most unideal situation. But recently, what we've done actually, just in addition to the family wellness program, is that we partnered with Alberta Works, and so sometimes they house people in hotels, families mostly, and so they came to us and they said they've heard some of the good work that we're doing with families. Some of the work we were doing before was just we ran into situations where a family showed up at our door and we had to figure it out, and they'd heard about some of that, and so. They connected with us and asked if we could help resituate people and families who are staying in hotels in actual stable housing situations. And so we've done that for a year and a half or thereabout now, and it's worked out quite well. So it's an upstream intervention. The family, they don't have to they don't have to lose their housing or be kicked out of the hotel before and then have to figure out where the child goes and where the parent goes. It's been quite a great partnership just doing that.
I just want to thank all the Real Talkers for the comments that are coming in. A lot of people are just talking about restoring dignity and health services and the potential of people and all of the things that I'm sure that at a personal and at an organizational level drive your advocacy. Before we wrap, and I know that you guys are going to get back to your day-to-day here in running this mission and offering these programs, and our call to action to Real Talkers will be to visit hopemission.com and do what you can, including considering a donation as part of your family or perhaps your company's philanthropic plan, to consider Hope Mission today, to consider them maybe on a monthly supportive basis, or perhaps even a legacy gift. But as tradition here around our Real Talk Roundtable, we always like to give almost like a charge to the audience, sort of the people that are listening to this on the treadmill or on their commute or while they're walking their dogs, to give them something to walk with and think about through the weekend or beyond. A couple sentences, whatever's on your heart. Beth, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my charge to people all the time is to recognize that is our community member, that is family members of people, and so many times we get stuck of what am I supposed to do, how can I do it, but just starting that conversation and being open to helping people is a huge first step. So many of our clients get ignored and don't have anybody that they can talk to, and sometimes all they need was a bottle of Gatorade. So just being able to be open to talking with them and start giving out things like Gatorade makes a huge difference for our clients.
Yeah, no kidding. Ade?
Well, I've always felt that how you determine the health of the conscience of a society is how they care for their most vulnerable people. And I find that Edmonton is really good at that. And so I guess I'll just, my remarks would be gratitude. Thank you for all that you're doing, and keep doing it, yeah.
Yeah, keep doing it. And also with the reality check, the demand for services is maybe higher than it's ever been, right? Which is so important. Yep. Last word to you, Tim.
Yeah, I would say homelessness affects us all, one way or another. And I think people, in their families, there's a lot of people that could say they know somebody in their family that's experienced homelessness, living in poverty, having different challenges. So it is something that I think most people can identify with in some respect. And so I just ask you to just be aware of that and just, think of people in need. If you see people in need on the streets, just support them. Call 211 and press 3 for crisis diversion if you ever see someone in need on the streets. And just thank you for caring for people in need.
You can learn more about the amazing work that Tim and Beth and Ade and their team are doing at Hope Mission by visiting hopemission.com. And if I know anything about this audience, I know that this is going to land with some of you in a very personal way. If you're reflecting on this and you'd like to share your thoughts, perhaps you've tapped into services at Hope Mission, perhaps you've supported Hope Mission for many, many years. We invite your feedback by way of a comment on our YouTube or Spotify episodes or an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com, and we'll be happy to circle back and highlight some of those stories, that personal testimony, so to speak, in episodes as early as next week. Again, that's hopemission.com. This conversation has happened with the support of Real Talk's partners, including our friends at the Ranch Golf and Country Club, home to the Real Talk Golf Classic coming up Thursday, June 18th, 2 p.m. shotgun start. This is Alberta's top value public golf course. There's a reason why we take our tournament there to the Ranch. Nobody lets you have more fun through 18 holes and then on the 19th than the team at the Ranch. There's no doubt about that. You can register for the Golf Classic via the events link at ryanjesperson.com, and you can book your tee time at the Ranch as early as today, this weekend. You can check on their tournament schedule, find available tee times, booking now at theranchgolf.com. I also recommend, if you're hosting or organizing a tournament this year, consider hosting it at the Ranch. Nobody does it better than Murray and his team. Nobody can help you with suggestions on fundraising, on menu selection, better than they can help you at the Ranch. Just check the golf tournament link at theranchgolf.com. Our friends at Friesen Brothers have you all set up for barbecue season. There's no doubt about that. They've been putting great Alberta beef, Alberta pork, Alberta chicken, you name it, on Alberta families' tables for more than 70 years. And as part of their barbecue season offerings, Of course, they're presenting some incredible options, including Mile 12 cabin sausages, Mile 12 cabin patties, perfect for grab and go if you're going to be barbecuing at home. And don't forget their butcher shop, for the first time in Friesen Brothers history, offering marinated meats. That's right, it's 100% Alberta pork and chicken, crafted and marinated in store. Barbecue ribs, spatchcock chicken, many other options. Great for the barbecue, the oven, the air fryer. 5 different flavors: barbecue, lemon harvest, jerk, roasted garlic, and souvlaki, my personal favorite. You can find them in 16 different Friesen Brothers locations. Friesen Brothers is proudly Alberta grown and Alberta owned. This is a note for employers that are looking to hire this summer. If you're looking for young people, if you're looking for reliable entry-level staffers, it could be hospitality, retail, even construction, road building, you're bound to find a fit, a wonderful partnership, an employment partnership with UCAN Youth Services. Through their Verto program, their Road to Work program, they are graduating young and eager talent every 20 weeks or so. It's a earn while you learn program, which means young people are stepping out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. But in order for there to be a positive result, they need to be able to find a job, and that's where you could come in. It's why Tim Hortons and IKEA and other big employers are partnering with UCAN, because they've found that it works. You can ask about being an employment partner today. You can connect with the team at UCAN by visiting ucan.ca. And a shout out to Barb and her pals. Johnny yesterday had a chance to take them out for lunch. Barb was the winning bidder during the UCAN Comedy Night back in March. She paid a pretty penny to have lunch with me and pick, ask a few questions. And Barb actually sort of went like Barbara Walters on me, as a matter of fact. It was so much fun. I told her that I thought the lunch could have gone for 3 more hours anyway. She told me the real reason she did it. She's just proud to support UCAN Youth Services. That filled my heart. So a shout out to you, Barb. Thanks for your generous live auction bid at UCAN Comedy Night. Looking forward to next March already. And before we get to the Flamethrower, this is perfect. Just wanted to remind you that we've got an important message from the Alberta Professional Firefighters and Paramedics Association. They've had this integrated firefighter-paramedic model in operation in some Alberta communities for more than 100 years, in many communities for decades and decades, but it's at risk right now due to funding cuts, and both municipal and provincial governments can do what they need to do to protect this life-saving service, but they may not do it without pressure from you. Listen, when we call 911, we need to know that help is on the way ASAP. We don't care about contracts. We don't care about bureaucracy. We don't care about what the health organization is being renamed to. We need to know that our firefighters and paramedics are showing up with the training, the skills, and the equipment that they need to help us and our loved ones, right? So that's why first responders are asking decision makers to listen to the front line, and they need your help on this. You can send a message to your elected officials by visiting the website apffpa.ca. I know it's kind of a tough one, right? It's why we have it posted in the show notes. That's apffpa.ca. Contact your MLA by following the link that is clearly there on the homepage. This is a message from the Alberta Professional Firefighters and Paramedics Association. A lot of moving parts in today's episode. Our thanks to Calgary's Mayor Jeromy Farkas and to our Hope Mission movers and shakers for joining us. Flying the plane the whole time has been this show's intrepid technical director, Johnny Infamous, who I have to imagine, I'm rattling through what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Very much looking forward to the Edmonton Tourism Awards coming up in just a few hours. I'm honored to host that. And then down to Calgary for the Juno Beach Center Gala. We're going to raise some funds for that incredible, that beautiful museum.
Big weekend.
Yeah, the museum that they have down in France. It's remarkable what the team at the Juno Beach Center is doing with that. What do you have cooking this weekend? Like a million things, 500 things going on? You laugh every time I ask you because you're like, where do you want me to start?
No, I'm laughing because I'm actually been scaling back a little here. I'm gonna be at Bird Dog Saturday night, right in the heart of Edmonton here. If you want to come by and see me 9 p.m. till late. But other than that, I'm kind of scaling back. Wedding season just around the corner. I need to get this battery charged up and
yeah, you do.
You Albertans and your wedding. So play till 5 a.m.
Do you know right off the top of your head right now how many weddings you're hosting? You're DJing this summer?
I've scaled back a lot.
Okay.
I'm focusing more on this aspect of my life. This show, especially with everything going on in the province and the country. But in general, I just I had a good talk with my Uncle Tony down in Paducah, Kentucky this week. And the one thing he said to me is, he's like, you can always make more money. You can't make more time, right? So I've really been carrying that with me this week. But also, a lot of people in my life have told me that. They're like, you seem to work every single day of the week, most weeks. And I'm like, you know what? I need to kind of live a little more. So this summer, I'm gonna take in the sun a bit more.
Good for you.
But also, I am grateful for the job I have. Going to a wedding, playing a bunch of tunes, seeing a bunch of people happy. It's not really like
so fun.
The line I always say, I'm not digging ditches out here, right?
Yeah.
So,
shout out to all the ditch diggers. We're lucky we have them.
100%.
Shout out to Christine as well. Christine, $5 into the super chat, says, please donate to Hope. They do amazing work. She says, I have huge gratitude for their work and everybody who works in shelters. She says it's literally life-saving. She's totally bang on. And this one as well from our chat is banging today. Good on you guys. From Tony. Thanks, Tony, for the contribution. Says Hope Mission. She says, like Bissell Center as well, superheroes of our society. We must support them. Says, my heart hurts for the people suffering. Tony, just with a big heart, bringing it to the table every day, Tony. Love it.
As tough as you think life is right now, because we're all feeling the squeeze. I'm not talking about here in Canada, North America, the world. Economically, the rising food costs, the opioid epidemic, houselessness, homelessness, the crunch on, just housing in general. Think about all those things affecting your life as a person in middle to high income or low income, wherever you are. And then think about how hard that is for a person on the street. Like everything is landing on their shoulders. As hard as it was to get out of addiction, to get out of a homeless, houseless situation, to get into, our health facilities that are overcrowded. It's all 100 times. It's 100x for someone living on the street. And today, I just want to mention one thing about the religion thing. Who gives a shit? I don't care.
Well,
I don't care who's helping these people. I looked the numbers up. About 50% of the shelter beds in Canada are by faith-based organizations.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're Christian. I don't care if they're atheist. Put your money where your mouth is. As long as they're helping these people, I don't really care color, creed, whatever.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you guys the truth about something, and I'll here's a little peek behind the curtain. Is I already kind of knew the answer to the question, which is why I was especially eager to ask it early in the interview, because I understand why some people there's like many faith-based organizations. Mayor Farkas earlier today referenced the Mustard Seed and the connection with the Nixon family. That's another faith-based organization. People will talk a lot about the Salvation Army. That's another faith-based organization. And here's where I think it becomes relevant, and here's why I think people care, is that in some organizations, and Hope is not among them, let me be crystal clear about that, Hope is not among them, but in some organization, there's there's like a quid pro quo, where it's like, if you want to stay in our shelter tonight, or if you want to tap into our services, you got to be sober, or you got to pray before the meal, or you got to it's like these timeshare meetings that people go to when they're in Mexico. You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to get the free sunset cruise, you got to come to the meeting. And I think that some people, and understandably so, have a real problem with that, because there's like a barrier to entry to the service, right? Like, you kind of have to participate at a certain degree in the religion to utilize the service, and the service is seen as an arm of the evangelical mandate of the organization, right? So, and I think that that's why members of the public in particular, as religious people would refer to you as non-believers, or the oh my gosh, I almost said separatists, the secular critics, these faith-based organizations oftentimes face fire from people that say there shouldn't be that barrier to entry, that religious barrier to entry. I'm happy to let you know, which is, and it's one of the many reasons why we're proud to support Hope Mission, is that is not the case. But I totally agree with you. Something that has its roots in religion, for a lot of people, feel how you feel about religion. I have my own thoughts about it based on my own personal journey. I'm sure you have your own thoughts on it based on your own personal journey, and that's the way that I think it should be. And that's the way I think it should stay. And your religious beliefs are none of my business, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this show cracking on people for their religious beliefs, because that's really not how I'm wired. I don't appreciate, I just don't think that that's the mandate of a show like this. It's not the spirit. We have people that appear on this show that believe in that are agnostic and atheist. We have Muslims and Hindus and Christians and Jews and people from many different faiths, Baha'i faiths. Wasn't that interesting with our recent, remember that Iranian roundtable with our friend Noor Nastadian that was on talking about her roots in the Baha'i faith? I mean, it's,
But let's also give props where it's due. Some of the oldest homeless organizations in Canada are Christian faith-based organizations. Salvation Army, Scott Mission, I think the biggest one when I was living in Ontario, old Covenant House Toronto. So I mean, if you think that shouldn't be the way it is, put your money where your mouth is. Donate. Open your own homeless shelter. I don't care who's doing it, as long as you're helping these people.
Yeah, 100% agree. We shouldn't agree on everything heading into the Flamethrower. We should find something to argue about, John.
Do you want to argue about
turn up the temperature?
Carter Hart and the Vegas Golden Knights? No, I'm kidding. It'll be too long. We'll save it for next week.
No. Let's do it right now.
We'll see how they do this weekend.
Let's do it right now.
It's 1-1.
My only thing is, I'm going to full disclosure. My only thing is I got to get my ass over to the Edmonton Tourism Awards. That's the only thing, because I'm hosting in like 51 minutes. But here's what I would say on the Carter Hart thing. For people that haven't been paying attention, Carter Hart was one of the 5 2018 World Junior players accused in the assault. Obviously, post golf tournament, everybody knows the story. Acquitted. I would point out, found not guilty, not innocent, found not guilty. And
reinstated in the NHL. Now having a heck of a game and he's in the Stanley Cup Finals as the goalie for the Vegas Golden Knights.
And he is in the conversation for the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP. Although I don't know if who knows if that would ever happen. Maybe it could. And also in Carolina, the first 2 games in Carolina, the team split them 1-1. Carolina, Seth Jarvis, Canadian Olympian, with a big overtime winner last night to even the series at 1-1. Hart's being heckled with chants of no means no by thousands of Hurricanes fans. Your thoughts?
I'm here for it. And I know what you're going to say. I like that you're on the other side.
No, you don't know I'm on the other side.
Not that you're on the other side, but I know what the argument is. He was acquitted. He was found not guilty, or whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah.
But hey, I'm a big fan of karma. I'm also a big fan of like, hey man, where there's smoke, there's fire. Even if you're not guilty, I think when you associate with people, when you're in rooms where things like this are happening, and there's no punishment at all, and you're back and you're making lots of money, and you're back, and for me, this is the thing with Carter Hart. Do I think he's the devil? Am I going to be outside protesting against him at games? No. But at the same time, I didn't see the guy speak up and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do in my community. This is what I'm going to do in Vegas. I'm going to go sit with survivors of sexual violence and listen to them and maybe understand how I can do better. He didn't say obviously he wasn't going to condemn his teammates at that time or whoever they were. But
he's co-accused.
What I've seen is zero. What I've heard is, it's great to be back. Thanks to my supporters, etc. I haven't heard one iota. And that's what bothers me the most. So a little karma, a little smoke and especially during the playoffs.
We're forgetting a big detail too. We're not forgetting. We just haven't mentioned yet that he was also recently photographed in Vegas wearing a Free Alberta shirt.
Yeah,
which I think is just added. It's just added another layer to this whole thing.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He I'm not going to say he got away with something, but there were no repercussions, and now he's what were the repercussions? He had to sit out for a bit while it was going on. That was it.
I will say objectively, and I say this from a position of privilege, but objectively speaking, there were serious repercussions in that his NHL career was interrupted. He lost on millions of dollars, and his reputation will be forever damaged from this. But yes, I understand how it's very difficult for people, in particular survivors of sexual violence, and we are your allies and we support you. Let me just say, I understand why, in particular, advocates and sexual violence survivors feel like there's really no accountability here. There's really nobody paying
there
the
never
cost.
is.
I mean, this guy could and quite likely will. I'm not predicting. Could go 7 games. Who knows? They're pretty evenly matched teams. But he could be hoisting the Stanley Cup a pretty short period of time after he was acquitted in court. And then some supporters of Carter Hart or supporters of the way that the judicial system works are saying, well, that's good. He should be able to hoist it. He should have an opportunity to work again if he was acquitted in a court of law. Then that's the way the system is supposed to work. And
I like the smoke. I love it during the playoffs too. And if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. And that's a bit of karma, because if Carter had gone in front of cameras before he re-entered the NHL and said, you know what, I just moved to Vegas. I went to a meeting. I listened to survivors of sexual violence. I listened to their side of the story. And you know what?
Yeah.
You know, I shouldn't have been in that room. I should have done. I know he can't say things related to the case, but he should have said, I'm lending my ear to them, and they're the people I'm listening to right now because I think I need to learn a bit from this. He would have walked into Carol. There'd be no reason for the chants. They'd be like, why are you chanting this? They'd have stories on the guy. They'd have the proof to back it up to be like he's whatever. But what I've heard from him is Alberta should separate. And I'm like, dude, you're just wading into a whole other water.
well, he didn't I don't know.
Free Alberta shirt?
Yeah, for sure. No,
Come
I'm just
on.
saying.
Come on.
No, let's just be clear. He was photographed wearing a Free Alberta shirt, and he's wearing a Free Alberta shirt in Vegas, and it's a free country. I mean, obviously, you know how I feel about it, and how I feel about separation and the whole fucking thing. But I just want to be clear that he hasn't made a statement about Alberta separation. He was just photographed wearing the shirt. Now, obviously, I'm sure that you're not wearing the shirt, especially as a professional athlete, taking pictures with fans without knowing what's involved in it, right? But I don't know, man. The whole thing is just, I don't know. I will say this, and I said this to you yesterday, hearing thousands of people chanting no means no, no means, I would guarantee if you want to get in someone's head, I don't know that any
Let's go.
professional goalie, I don't know that any goalie in the National Hockey League would have the mental fortitude to block that out. I don't know Carter Hart personally, but I would imagine that is messing with him big time. I don't know, but he's still playing well. There's this, is that the, that's the photo right there. There it is.
Let me just zoom in here.
So what was this?
For
a guy,
our friends who are listening,
a fan of his, and listen, he's trying to do something. He's trying to do something positive. Hart is. What is this guy's birthday or something? What does the sign say? It's my birthday, and Hart gives him a signed stick.
But the funny thing is, I know Carter didn't go out and try to wear this T-shirt with it's pretty small. It's not like a flag on it. It's a little logo on the right, over the heart where your chest is. Just says Free Alberta. I get it. Whatever. Maybe they caught him coming out of the gym, but dude, you're trying to repair your career. Leave this shirt for when you go home to see mom and dad at Christmas in your pajama shirt. You know what I mean? Don't wear it out to the gym or to the grocery store where fans can see you. If I was Carter Hart, I'd be trying to avoid every controversy I could. And that's not to say silence people. It's just, man, work to be a little more palatable, a little more easier woven into, every section of the community. Because right now, the idea people have in their head is that you're not sorry for anything that happened because we haven't heard a word, right? And I get it. There's a lot of legalities around this. You don't want to blame your friends who are, but I'd take, if something like this happened, if I put myself in Carter Hart's shoes, I would be trying to take responsibility. I'd be trying to learn no matter what I thought my guilt was involved in the situation. And I'd be trying to weave myself into the community and be like, hey man, I'm a guy who listens. I'm a guy who understands. I want to know why people feel who are on the side that are raging against me, why they feel that way. And I want to change. Right. And I've heard none of that. So, hey, a little smoke in the stands, a little, I think you said it best. What worse chant? I'm trying to think of all the chants I've heard that are bad while I've been at games or heard on TV. I think this has got to be top 3.
Yeah, no means no is succinct. It's to the point. Everyone can pronounce it.
Everyone hears. They're
it rings through the stadium.
You don't have to go what are they saying? You're oh my.
Well, and
God.
I was kind of laughing yesterday in the game last night because it's you can hear it. It's so loud on the broadcast. And it's no means no. No means these thousands of people. And then Chris Cuthbert is doing play-by-play. He's just Jar Harvest
trying to
behind
avoid
the net.
it. Yeah.
carrying the puck up the left side, and it's like, no means no. And like Craig Simpson's not saying anything. They're both just like, It is what it is. Let us know what you think about it to talk at RyanJesperson.com.
No, actually, could you please not? Could you please not?
People are in the live chat are like, Johnny's starting a fire on a Friday.
Look, here's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm glad we talked about it.
I just like a little slice of karma, because I feel like out of all the things that happen to people where we're like, we demand justice for, there's two areas where like nobody gets their just due. And that's Indigenous people related to basically everything from clean water to like pipelines across their land. Two, sexual assault survivors who are always told, like, either you asked for it, you shouldn't have been there. Like, how about the people who perpetrate this stuff? They shouldn't be there. They should be the ones who are, like, in all the situations, it's like women or sexual assault survivors should have not been there. They should have dressed different. They should have talked different. They should have acted different. They shouldn't be as loose. All this bullshit. It should be the other way. We should be saying, why were you there, dude? Why didn't you say anything? And afterwards, why did you not try to help these people at all? If you're saying you had a big question mark over your head, I was just floating on a cloud that night. 3 beers, and I didn't know what was going on behind closed doors. So I like it. A little smoke for the goalie, and the goalie, who are always the guys who are a little like, you know what I mean? They need a little extra help because they're usually a little, what's the word? Eccentric.
You can say quirky, eccentric. Yeah, they're like drummers in bands.
Yeah. So you can get to them easy. That's why they always go for the goalie, right?
Well, you can get to them easy, or you don't dare get to them.
Because they're in their head.
There's stories of like in pro in particular where it's like you don't even talk to the goalie on game day. Even if you're his best friend, you don't say a word. Goalies are nuts. I hope my friend Haas is watching this so he can hear me loud and clear. You know, my buddy Haas played at Notre Dame. How cool is this? This was his claim to fame. He was a goaltender for Notre Dame in Saskatchewan. Brad Richards, Stanley Cup champion with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Brad Richards was on his team at Notre Dame, and our buddy Haas was the MVP. How cool is that? But he's crazy as all hell.
When we say crazy, it's like an endearing term because there's...
I love Haas. He's one of my best friends.
Like goalies are, yes, they're one of the most eccentric, quirky... They're like, if you have friends who are engineers, they're the same way. Like things have to be a certain way for them.
That's good.
If you meet them for lunch, like they're there 20 minutes early,
that's
and
why
the
bridges don't collapse.
silverware is aligned, and you're like, what is going on? And they're like, after this, we're going to go for a walk in the park for exactly 18 minutes, and then we're going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
God bless them. But at the same time,
we're lucky to have them.
Check in on your goalie friends today.
Yeah, Dubious says Hart knows anyone with any morals is against him. He hears the chants, so he's scrambling to get in with a crowd of shitbags who tolerate that kind of stuff. Tracy D says, hey, what the hell? He still gets to make a fortune, play pro hockey, get idolized,
100%.
potentially raise the cup.
100%.
Why the hell would he take accountability? He has already won. That from Tracy
really?
D. Super Chat Ken says the simple truth is that the legal system failed everybody in this case, regardless of the circumstances. They allowed it to get so far down the road that the truth will never be known, and it is sad all around. And thanks to Tyler Watson, who says, guys, don't forget to like the show and subscribe to the channel. Tyler, you're about to like this, pal, because you're headlining this traditional wrap-up to our weekly schedule, this courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. These are all real emails to talk at RyanJesperson.com or YouTube comments. It's the Flamethrower, presented by the DQs in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road, and Tyler W. leads us off. He says, Jespo, I'm normally a pretty reserved guy, but I've decided to take up the mantle of staying in Canada. I'm becoming more vocal about how bad of an idea it is to leave, especially in my community. My wife doesn't like it because we live in a rural area and she's worried it's a small community and a good chunk of the community supports separation, but those chuckle fucks have been way too loud. I put out a chance for people to state their case for separation and specifically asked for facts and data to support their points, and I got the normal responses of boo, liberal, bad, or get out of here, commie, and we'll do better with no money, with no equalization payments. But I want to point out some of the specific responses that were especially egregious. He says, number one, after somebody complained about how the East has more seats in the House of Commons, have provided a breakdown of population percentages and the percentage of the seats in the House of Commons per province, showing that Alberta is actually better represented than Ontario. Alberta with 11% population of Canada, 10% of the seats. Ontario 39% population of Canada, 36% of seats. And then providing a table in my breakdown, and the response I got was, I Googled my answer, where did you get yours? Ontario has way more seats than all the Western provinces put together. Tyler says, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah, you dumb fuck, because they're bigger than the Western provinces put together. This is a representative democracy, not an oligopoly. Says one of the other comments was, a lot of Albertans don't want to be ruled by a government anymore that's recklessly spending money to a point of recession, handcuffing our economy, taxing us to death, and giving us little say. He says, to be clear, they're talking about the Liberals. I'm sorry, did you mean the UCP? Tyler says, there's one party I would bet my hat on to balance the budget is running a deficit of $9 billion this year. You put them in the power of an entire fucking country, says Tyler. And by the way, these are all caps, loud. Mayor Farkas loved reading this one too. Tyler says, now at risk of rambling too much, I just want to leave some math here. He says, I'll credit Rick Mercer here. Alberta holds like $100 billion debt, okay? If we added $500 billion debt and a line of credit from the Americans, if we stopped selling $144 billion worth of goods to the other provinces, we would have a $744 billion debt on day one. Would we even be able to cover our interest costs after we separate? He says, anyway, Jespo, I totally love the show. Keep what you're doing. And you know, for all these mouth breathers who are getting all your separatist talking points from your uncle's racist tirades, why not just head to the States already? That from Tyler W. Bringing the heat. How about this one from Geoff with a G? Says, Jespo, was I ever grateful to listen to that great interview you had about municipalities separating from the province. I remember the discussions about Montreal separating from Quebec back in 95. It says, surprise you, Alberta separatist expletive goes here. The highway goes in both directions, says Geoff. Living in Toronto, he says, I've seen Premier Doug Ford. This feels distasteful, but it is the Flamethrower, so I'll continue to press forward, John. Premier Doug Ford, brother of the deceased crack-smoking former Toronto mayor. Man, time and time again, stomp on citizens in Toronto. There was the changing of the number of councillor wards in the middle of a civic election, right? Discussed on your show, Jespo. Add to that the recent annexation plan of Toronto's Island Airport, so Doug doesn't have to go all the way to Pearson to catch a flight. The chronic underfunding of public transit, the historic downloading of highways and services to municipalities in the 90s to help our province, Ontario, that is, balance their budget. The time has come to review and reorganize the powers of municipalities. Toronto alone is bigger than 6 provinces, but doesn't have the decision-making autonomy that those provinces have. It's time to review, says Geoff, Canada's constitutional powers for municipalities of all sizes, from Tawasin to Trochu to Toronto to Trois-Rivières to Twillingate, and set our future generations on firm political and economic footing. Geoff with a G. A+ on the geography there and the alliteration. What about this from Michael out of Calgary? Says, Jespo, your May 28th episode, the Lead Not Leave crew, says you had on Ken Bosencool, former finance minister Travis Taves, Peggy Garrity in studio. He mentioned me in the YouTube live chat, by the way. He says I was really excited about that. He says, and I was enthusiastic about hearing the group Lead Not Leave on the show. He says, I think it's important that they defend Canada, these conservatives, and when conservatism went south, the grievances around the Alberta pension plan, when Confederation was actually working, I was expecting your panelists to offer an olive branch, especially with like Corey Hogan, the Liberal MP, and Jason Kenney, the Conservative former cabinet minister, former premier, joining forces at a rally, but it just didn't happen. I hope they can reflect on that as I've reflected myself. Canada is far too important to allow this to remain a partisan issue. That from Michael in Calgary. Love it, Michael. What about this one from Garth, who writes in and says, Jespo, what we're seeing from Mark Carney in Ottawa is not leadership. This is political card trickery dressed up as statesmanship. They want Canadians staring at the big orange comb over south of the border as if every economic wound that Canada has is because of Donald Trump's tariffs. And yeah, Trump is a reckless political wrecking ball. No person should pretend otherwise. But here's the part that Ottawa's hoping that we'll miss. Canada's economic weakness did not begin at the American border. It was grown at home, says Garth. For years, Alberta had the commodity, the skill, the workforce, the capital base, and the global demand to position Canada as an energy powerhouse. We could have built national resilience. We could have had more export access, more private investment, more industrial confidence, and more leverage when global shockwaves came. Instead, Ottawa treated Alberta's greatest economic strength like a national embarrassment. C-48 blocked northern tanker access. C-69 created regulatory uncertainty. So bad that the Supreme Court later found that much of the federal scheme unconstitutional. Industrial carbon costs remain. Project approvals became a maze. Investors got the message loud and clear. Take your money somewhere else. And now Carney walks on stage and tells Canadians the problem is Donald Trump. It's not an explanation. That's misdirection. Carney was not some innocent bystander watching Trudeau-era economic policy from a park bench. He was close enough to the machinery to understand the damage. So when he presents himself as the adult who arrived to clean up the mess, forgive Albertans if we ask, clean up whose mess exactly? This is where Alberta separation enters the conversation, and Garth says, and I say this carefully, but as a naturalized Canadian, I do not believe I have the moral right to casually cheer for tearing apart the only country that many Canadians have ever called home. But I absolutely have the duty to speak for my children who know no home except for Alberta in Canada. So my position is I do not want Alberta to leave Canada. I want Alberta unleashed enough to save Canada. But if Ottawa's vision for national unity is to keep Alberta chained, blamed, taxed, delayed, lectured, and then told to be grateful for the privilege, then Alberta should, or rather Ottawa should not act shocked when Albertans start asking exactly why they're staying. You can't kneecap the economic engine and then complain the country is limping. You can't pander to radical environmental policies, strangle resource infrastructure, scare off investment, and then pretend that Canada's weakness was imported from Washington, D.C. Donald Trump may be the storm, but Ottawa spent a decade tearing shingles off the roof. That from Garth in an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. You can submit your flamethrower. Fire it up to talk@ryanjesperson.com any day of the week. And don't forget, when you pass through the drive-thru or pop in store to a DQ in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road to pick up a flamethrower signature stack burger and a Oreo Blizzard, you let them know that Real Talk sent you. I hope to see you in Calgary at the Juno Beach Gala this weekend. Maybe I'll see you at Lilac Festival, and if not, we'll see you Monday right back here with Supriya.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.